Dune. Frank Herbert's Dune saga is philosophical science fiction with desert ecology, empire-scale politics, religion, power, and long consequences. The typical reading experience is dense, reflective, and strange. It often feels less like a simple adventure and more like a guided walk through systems, pressure, belief, and change across generations. This guide is not asking you to prove anything by finishing every volume. It is a stop-point guide for normal readers who want the most satisfying exit from the series without forcing themselves through a shelf they no longer enjoy. Dune is famous because it works on more than one level. It can be read as a grand science fiction landmark. It can also be read as a slow warning about charisma, empire, resource control, and certainty. That is why the stopping question matters. Different readers are satisfied by different kinds of closure. Some want the cleanest single-book experience. Some want the main idea challenged once. Some want the generational arc to feel complete. Some want the full Frank Herbert shelf, even when the style becomes more abstract. This video stays with Frank Herbert's 6 core novels, because those are the books most readers mean when they ask about the Dune series. Later expansion books can be interesting, but they are a different project with a different reading promise. For most readers, the profitable and practical answer is not more completism. It is choosing the point where the series has given you what you came for. Dune. The first and most important exit point is simple. You can stop after the original novel and still have a complete reading experience. This is the path I would recommend to anyone who wants the cultural landmark, the atmosphere, the desert politics, and the big science fiction feeling without signing up for the entire saga. The first book was first published in the 1960s, after appearing in magazine form, and it became one of the major pillars of modern science fiction. That history matters because the book was built to carry weight on its own. It is not merely a pilot episode for a larger franchise. It has its own shape, its own pressure, and its own sense of arrival. If you finish Dune and feel full, that is not a failure. That is a valid reading result. Many readers who love the first book never become long series readers, because the next volumes ask for a different kind of attention. The first book gives you world building, tension, ecology, politics, and a strong sense of mythic scale. It also gives enough context for nearly every casual conversation about the series. If your goal is to understand why Dune matters, this is the safest stopping point. If your goal is to decide whether the larger saga is for you, treat this book as the test. Finish it calmly. Notice whether you want more of the ideas, not just more of the setting. If the answer is no, stop here with confidence. Dune Messiah. The second exit point is after Dune Messiah. This is the best stopping place for readers who want the original book questioned rather than simply extended. It is shorter, colder, and more inward than many people expect. That is also why it can be the most useful second step. It changes the way the first novel sits in your mind without asking you to commit to the full 6-book journey. This is often where reader burnout first appears. The pace is not trying to recreate the broad sweep of Dune. The appeal is more analytical. It asks the reader to sit with consequences, image, responsibility, and the cost of power. For some viewers, that makes it feel less exciting. For others, that is exactly the point. As a stop point, Dune Messiah works because it turns the first book from an impressive single epic into a sharper 2-book argument. If you came to Dune for action momentum only, this may be enough. If you came for the ideas underneath the action, this book may feel essential. I would not call it optional for readers who want the most balanced understanding of the original novel. I would call it optional for readers who only wanted one big science fiction experience. A practical rule helps here. If Dune made you curious about the danger of legendary thinking, read Dune Messiah. If Dune already felt dense enough, stop after book 1 and be satisfied. Children of Dune. The third exit point is after Children of Dune. This is where the series starts to feel less like a direct sequel path and more like a generational study. The scale widens. The tone becomes more ceremonial. The reading experience asks for patience with institutions, inheritance, and long-term design. For many readers, this is the natural completion point for the first major arc. It gives a sense of pattern that the first 2 books only begin to suggest. It also gives the reader enough distance to understand that Dune is not structured like a normal adventure series. The books are not designed to keep delivering the same pleasure in the same form. They mutate. They test your interest in the systems behind the drama. That can be rewarding, but it can also be tiring. If you enjoy seeing how a fictional civilization changes across time, Children of Dune is worth reaching. If you prefer tight focus and clean momentum, this may be where you feel the weight. As an exit point, it is strong because it feels more complete than stopping after the second book, while still avoiding the most unusual part of the saga. I would recommend this stop for readers who liked Dune Messiah but want a larger sense of closure. I would not recommend pushing past it just because the shelf continues. Beyond this point, the series becomes much stranger and more demanding in its rhythm. God Emperor of Dune. The fourth exit point is after God Emperor of Dune, and this is the big dividing line. Some readers consider this the intellectual center of the saga. Other readers feel the pace slows too far for their taste. Both reactions make sense. This book is not trying to be the friendliest entry in the series. It is trying to stretch the whole argument into something colder, larger, and more difficult. If you continue to this point, you should know why you are doing it. Do not read God Emperor only because it is next. Read it because you want the series at its most philosophical. Read it because you are interested in timescale, power, social design, and the burden of systems. It can feel less like a conventional novel and more like a long confrontation with the ideas that have been gathering since the beginning. That makes it a satisfying exit for readers who want a bold endpoint. It also makes it a poor choice for readers who already feel impatient. As a stop point, it has real strength because it feels like a summit. You may not want the descent that follows. If you finish this book and feel that the saga has made its largest statement, stopping here is completely reasonable. For many readers, this is the most ambitious exit point that still feels purposeful rather than completionist. Heretics of Dune. The fifth exit point is after Heretics of Dune, but this one is more specialized. It is not the cleanest stopping place for most beginners. It works best for readers who enjoyed the dramatic change after God Emperor and want to see how the universe feels in a later phase. The texture changes again. The reading experience becomes more about movement, factions, pressure, and a refreshed sense of direction. This is where the stop question becomes practical. If you have already reached Heretics, you are probably not a casual Dune reader anymore. You are now reading because you like the strange shape of Frank Herbert's long project. That means your exit standard changes. You are no longer asking whether the first book was enough. You are asking whether the new phase gives you energy, or simply reminds you that you are tired. Heretics can be rewarding because it makes the world feel active again after a very heavy philosophical peak. It can also feel like a new beginning rather than an ending. That is why I do not rank it as the best exit for most people. It is a good pause point. It is a good check-in point. It is a place to ask whether you want one more book, or whether the series has already given you the version of Dune you wanted. If your interest returns here, continue. If it does not, stop without guilt. Chapterhouse. Dune. The sixth exit point is after Chapterhouse Dune, which means finishing Frank Herbert's Core 6. This is the completionist path for readers who want the original author's full Dune shelf. It is the right choice if you care about the evolution of the series more than conventional neatness. It is also the right choice if you want to understand the full range of what Herbert attempted, including the parts that feel unusual, difficult, or unresolved. The important warning is that finishing the sixth book does not mean receiving the kind of simple finality many readers expect from a modern series. The value is different. You are seeing the outer edge of the original project. You are seeing how far the ideas travel from the first desert-centered epic into a much wider and stranger form. Some readers find that fascinating. Some feel frustrated because the shelf does not close in the tidy way they hoped. Both reactions are normal. As an exit point, Chapterhouse is the natural choice only if the journey itself has become your reward. If you are reading mainly for clean resolution, you may be happier stopping earlier. If you are reading for historical importance, intellectual range, and the full Frank Herbert experience, finish here. Just do it knowingly. Do not expect the sixth book to behave like a final chapter designed for maximum comfort. Dune. There is a simple way to choose your stop point without overthinking it. Ask what you came to Dune for. If you came for the landmark science fiction experience, one book is enough. If you came for the first book to be challenged, read 2. If you came for the first major arc to feel broader, read 3. If you came for the strangest and most philosophical statement, read 4. If you came for the full original author shelf, read 6. That latter is more useful than pretending every reader needs the same answer. Dune is a rare series because the best stopping point depends on what kind of satisfaction you value. Some series punish you for stopping early because the main promise remains incomplete. Dune is different. Several of its exit points can feel valid because each one offers a different kind of closure. The mistake is assuming that stopping means you failed the series. It does not. A reading order should serve the reader, not the other way around. This is especially important for a dense series that can turn from thrilling to exhausting if you push past your own interest. My practical advice is to buy or borrow in stages. Do not buy the full 6-book set until you know you enjoy the shift after the first novel. Read one book, then decide. Read the second only if you want the challenge. Read the third only if you want a wider arc. Continue only if curiosity remains stronger than obligation. Dune Messiah. The most common mistake is treating Dune Messiah as a small extra, rather than a purposeful second move. Readers often expect the second book to repeat the scale and texture of the first. When it does not, they think the series has weakened. A better way to read it is as a narrowing lens. It is not trying to make the world feel bigger. It is trying to make the implications feel sharper. This matters for the stop point question because Dune Messiah can either save you time or deepen the whole experience. If you dislike its colder rhythm, that tells you something useful. You may not enjoy the later books enough to keep going. If you appreciate what it does, the series has probably opened a second door for you. It is also one of the least intimidating tests after Dune because it is shorter than the original and more concentrated. That makes it a smart next step before buying deeper into the saga. For affiliate planning and reader clarity, this is the book I would most often pair with Dune in a recommendation. It is the clean 2-book path. It respects the first novel, while showing why the saga has a more complicated reputation. If someone asks for the minimum serious Dune route, I would say Dune plus Dune Messiah. If they ask for the minimum casual route, I would say just Dune. God Emperor of Dune. Reader burnout usually appears when the promise in the reader's head no longer matches the book in their hands. With Dune, that mismatch can happen more than once. The first book creates one expectation. The second changes the temperature. The third widens the frame. The fourth becomes a major patience test. None of that means the books are bad. It means the series keeps changing the kind of attention it asks from you. This is why God Emperor is the key burnout checkpoint. If you reach it with curiosity, it can feel like the reason the whole middle of the saga exists. If you reach it with obligation, it can feel like a wall. The smart move is to notice your own response early. Are you still interested in the ideas when the pacing slows? Are you enjoying the arguments beneath the surface? Are you reading because the book is making you think, or because the number on the spine says you should continue? For a beginner-friendly channel, this honesty is important. We are not trying to flatter every long series. We are trying to help people make good reading decisions. If God Emperor sounds exciting to you, keep going. If it sounds like homework, stop after book 2 or 3. A satisfying exit is better than a resentful completion. Heretics of Dune. The final 2 books are best understood as the late Dune path. Heretics of Dune and Chapterhouse. Dune are for readers who have accepted that this series is not aiming for normal comfort. They are more rewarding when you care about the long experiment than when you are looking for the cleanest finish. That is the main reason I would not push casual readers toward them. The late path has value. It shows how far the original author was willing to move from the shape of the first novel. It keeps the universe alive in a different mode, and it rewards readers who enjoy seeing institutions, beliefs, and strategies change over a long horizon. But it also demands trust. If you are only continuing because you feel close to the end, that is not the best reason. A book channel should give permission to stop at the right moment, not pressure viewers into completion for its own sake. If you loved the unusual direction of God Emperor, the late path is worth sampling. If God Emperor already felt like your limit, do not force Heretics. Use it as an optional doorway. Then decide again before Chapterhouse. This staged approach keeps the series from becoming a chore. It also keeps each purchase tied to actual interest rather than collector anxiety. Chapterhouse. Dune. Here is the final recommendation. For most readers, the safest stop is after Dune. For serious readers who want the central correction to the first book, stop after Dune Messiah. For readers who want a wider first arc, stop after Children of Dune. For readers who want the boldest philosophical peak, stop after God Emperor of Dune. For readers who want Frank Herbert's full core shelf, finish Chapterhouse Dune. That is the cleanest decision map. It respects the books without pretending every reader needs all 6. It also matches the way people actually buy and read long series. Most readers do better with staged commitment. Start with the first book. If the density and atmosphere work for you, add the second. If the third leaves you curious about the saga becoming stranger, consider the fourth. Only then think about the last 2. This is the calmest way to read Dune, because it turns a huge series into a series of manageable decisions. It also protects your enjoyment. The goal is not to finish a famous shelf while losing interest. The goal is to leave the series at the point where it gave you the strongest return. Full stop point guide and book list belong together, so use the description as your practical reference when you are ready to choose the next step.